Welcome back to the Best Way program. I'm going to spotlight myself here. All right. Today we're going to talk about the healthiest people in the world. That is the title of the talk, and you might think, based on the first few slides, that what I'm doing is bragging about Seventh-day Adventists. But I think, as you'll see as we go forward, that that's actually not the case. But it is true that Seventh-day Adventists are the healthiest people in the world. This is from the Adventist Health Study 1, which was done back in California, and as you can see that at age 30, Adventist males have an average 9.2 years longer lifespan than their contemporaries. Even at age 80, when you're as old as Dr. Adams, there's a 4.6 year advantage. What about women? Well, it's a little bit more narrow, but they have about a 5-year life expectancy benefit, even at age 80, and that's about the same all through life. It's a little bit more when you're younger, 7.5. But there's not quite as a disparity as you go through life compared to men. Now, Seventh-day Adventists are the healthiest people in all the countries of the world where they've been studied. Whether you're looking at the Netherlands, or Norway, or Poland. I don't have the data up here, but there's been a study in Japan as well. Now, Seventh-day Adventists are the healthiest every place they've been studied. The question is why? Now, we know that vegetarian diets, as we've been talking about a plant-based diet during this program, have a big impact on health. And this is what is somewhat shocking to me, but this is why I can tell you I'm not bragging about Seventh-day Adventists. Because if you look at the actual diets that were studied in this Adventist health study, a majority of Seventh-day Adventists in California are not vegetarian. You see the numbers there on the screen. Those who ate red meat and poultry and fish and dairy and eggs actually were the largest group, about 44% of Adventists in the Adventist Health Study 1. As semi-vegetarians just ate a little bit less. Pesco-vegetarians did not eat red meat, but did eat fish, of course. Lacto-vegetarians eat milk and eggs, but no other animal products. And of course, you're familiar with the term vegan. Those are those who ate a plant-based diet, which is the type of diet that we would recommend. So you wouldn't know it by coming to the South Bay Church, but a majority of Adventists around the world are not actually vegetarian or even plant-based. So what we are actually doing for the rest of this lecture is comparing the different types of diets and the different constituents of that diet within the Adventist health study. So overall, Adventists were healthier. Let's find out why certain types of diets happen to be healthier. So let's start with diabetes. We have a diabetes program coming up with Dr. Aisha Inankur, and it turns out that with each improvement in diet, you reduce your risk of diabetes, and by the time you get down to a plant-based diet, there's about an 80% reduction in your chance of actually having diabetes. The same thing holds true for high blood pressure, about a 75% reduction in your risk of hypertension if you eat a plant-based diet. The plant-based diet in this Adventist health study were the only group of people that actually had a normal BMI, or body mass index. The vegans had an average of 23.1. So there's a lot of specific foods that were examined by Dr. Michael Orlich and those other individuals on the Adventist Health Study. Michael Orlich was actually a friend of mine when I was out there in California. He's a good guy. So let's look at meat, poultry, and fish. We're going to go very rapidly through a lot of different constituents of the diet and comment very briefly on their contribution to your health or your disease. So, of course, those who are non-vegetarian ate the most meat, poultry, and fish, and they also had the most heart attacks. The higher the risk of heart attack, it's directly related to the amount of meat that you eat or how many days a week that you eat it. What about dementia risk? Those who ate meat, poultry, and fish were about twice as likely, more than twice as likely, to develop dementia. Same was true for bladder cancer, 2.5 times more likely to develop bladder cancer if you eat meat, poultry, and fish compared to those who ate a vegetarian diet. Pancreas cancer also increased about double the risk. Let's look specifically at red meat now. Now, obviously, those in the non-vegetarian group ate most of the red meat. Of course, vegans and lacto-vegetarians don't eat any red meat, as do the pesco-vegetarians. We'll look at poultry, and of course, again, those in the non-vegetarian group ate the most poultry, semi-vegetarian a little bit less. Fish, of course, in the pesco-vegetarian group, these individuals ate a lot of fish, about the same as the non-vegetarians. Overall mortality was actually slightly increased. This is your risk of dying was slightly increased if you ate fish. Part of this was due to breast cancer. Your risk of breast cancer increased about 32% if you ate fish more than once per week. Prostate cancer increased almost 1.6 times if you ate fish more than twice a week compared to those who never ate fish. Now let's look at some vegetables. Now, of course, those in the vegan group tended to eat more vegetables, and that's because they were eating more vegetables. Same thing was true for fruit. The vegan group ate more fruit. Same thing is true for grains. Of course, we were interested in whole grains. The vegans tended to eat the most grains. What about whole grains? Well, it's even more accentuated. Those who were very conscious of their health and were eating a plant-based diet, they ate about twice as much whole grains compared to those who were in the non-vegetarian group. Now, refined grains, this is kind of the opposite. The refined grains are those unhealthy type of prepared foods, and the non-vegetarians ate the most of the refined grains. What about legumes? Well, those in the vegan group ate the most legumes compared to those in the other groups, and this was very helpful. If you were interested in not getting colon cancer, your risk of getting colon cancer was divided about in half if you ate beans or legumes more than twice per week. Very helpful. Same was true for prostate cancer. You could reduce your risk of prostate cancer approximately 50% if you ate lots of legumes. Same thing was true for pancreatic cancer. Reduce your risk almost 60% if you ate the most of the legume group. What about the plant protein meats? We're all familiar now with the Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat and all of these other type of plant-based meat substitute. Now, these foods look an awful lot like meat, and it turns out that the vegans tended to not eat a lot of this. Those in the non-vegetarian group, well, they just ate the real thing, so they didn't worry about it. Those in the lacto-ovo-vegetarian group, they ate the most of these plant-based fake meats, if you will. Now, these are good transition foods if you're wanting to cut back on flesh foods, but they're sometimes very high in fat and salt, but they are less of a problem than the real thing. Dairy products, of course, the vegan group ate next to none. They weren't supposed to eat that. They're eating plant-based, and the non-vegetarians tended to eat the most dairy products. The same was true for cheese. The vegan group weren't supposed to eat much cheese, if any, and the non-vegetarians and semi-vegetarians ate the most cheese. Turns out that's bad for breast cancer. If you were eating cheese more than 3 times per week, it increased your risk of breast cancer by about over 40%. Increased your risk of colon cancer by about 30%. What about butter? Now, of course, the healthiest people eat less butter, and the same thing is true for eggs. The healthiest people eat fewer eggs. Pancreatic cancer increased about more than double, 2.5 times, if you were using lots of eggs. Oh, yummy, yummy ice cream. What about dairy desserts? We all know what dairy desserts are. Of course, the vegans weren't eating any dairy desserts, and the non-vegetarian group were eating the most. What about nuts and seeds? Well, the vegans tended to eat a lot of nuts and seeds, and Adventists in general were eating a lot of nuts and seeds, but the non-vegetarians were eating the least. Well, this candy doesn't really look that good to me, but there are certainly candies that I do find tempting. The vegans did the best at avoiding those concentrated sweets, while the non-vegetarians ate the most of them. Same thing's true for snack foods. Well, not quite. Actually, all the different groups ate snack foods. At best way, we recommend avoiding snacks altogether. If you want to eat some of these foods at mealtime, perhaps that'd be allowed, but snacks are these ultra-processed foods that tend to be high in refined flour and fat and salt. They are not a good item to include in the diet at all. What about sweetened beverages? Now, the vegans did the best at avoiding these. The healthiest Adventists consumed less of these sugary drinks. We'll probably hear a lot more about these sugary drinks in the diabetes class and the hypertension class that are coming up. What about coffee? The plant-based group, the vegans, were the healthiest, and they also tended to use the least amount of caffeine. They drink very little coffee. And it turns out coffee actually increases your risk of dying. This is a study of overall mortality. and it was about a 21% increase in the risk of dying just by using coffee. Now, why is that? We don't know for sure, but that's what was found. Colorectal cancer might be part of the answer. Even 1 cup a day increased your risk of colon cancer 50%. So coffee drinking in a population, let me answer a question right here. A lot of people have this question. You've probably even seen studies that say coffee is a good thing for you and it has all these antioxidants and benefits and things of that nature. Well, many studies don't show any harmful things associated with coffee, any harmful effects from coffee in the general population. Coffee drinking in a population with multiple risk factors for disease may not add very much to their risk profile. In other words, there's so many bad things they're doing, you don't really pull out any effects of coffee. But if you study coffee drinking in a basically healthy population, such as the study we're looking at here, it may show up as a risk factor for several diseases, and we've seen 2 of them so far. Here's colorectal cancer again, 50% increase in risk. Tea, a lot of different groups drank more or less teas. Unfortunately, they didn't separate out the caffeine-free herbal teas from the caffeine-containing teas. Of course, the vegans were drinking mostly the herbal teas. What about alcohol drinks? Turns out that the vegans drank very little, if at all, whereas the non-vegetarians were drinking more. The healthiest people drink less alcohol. Same thing is true for sodas. The healthiest Adventists drank very little carbonated sodas. These are not healthy things for us to be drinking. Here's a study of heart attacks, looking at all coffees, teas, juices, and sodas, and there was an increase in heart attack mortality if a person drank more than 4 glasses combined of coffee, tea, juice, and soda per day. And that was true for both men and women. What about fruit juices? Now, fruit juices are popular. Now, vegans drank the least amount of fruit juice. They prefer to eat the whole fruit, which is healthier than the juice. What about liquid meals? Sometimes I recommend to my patients that right after a surgery they might need to take some of these that you see on the screen. You can drink a lot of calories faster than you can eat them, and if you happen to be someone who is having trouble absorbing calories, this might be something important for you. But that's not the case with most of us on this program. We're not here to try to gain weight, we're here to try to lose weight. So taking some of these meal replacement drinks that have already been chewed for you, it's not really recommended by the Best Way program. So again, the vegans weren't drinking these much at all, and they often have a high dairy content, and that might explain it. What about non-dairy milks? Of course, the plant-based group, this was very popular with them. They were taking about 17 servings of that, as far as grams per day, 17 grams per day, whereas the non-vegetarians didn't have much use for it. Now, the most basic drink that we recommend here at the Best Way program is water. We want you to drink lots and lots and lots of water. It's highly recommended, and the vegans drank the most water here again. And that's very important for helping you avoid or survive a heart attack. The more water you drink, the fewer heart attacks that you will have. Let's look at citrus fruits here. The vegans ate the most citrus, and they ate the most berries. And as far as all other fruits here combined, the vegans still were eating the most fruit. What about dried fruit? This is also true. The vegans were eating the most dried fruit. Now, these dried fruits have a high sugar content, but it's mixed with a high fiber content. So you remember how we talked about complex carbohydrates have that slow absorption curve so that it matches the energy expenditure, and you can avoid weight gain that you might get with the more simple carbohydrates where the sugar just is absorbed very rapidly. That's why glycemic index is very important to consider. Well, it turns out these raisins, dates, and dried fruits are very helpful in avoiding pancreatic cancer. Look at that. That's a 65% decrease in your risk of pancreatic cancer if you're eating more than 3 servings of those per week. Also helpful for prostate cancer, about a 50% reduction in prostate cancer. We've talked about tomatoes and how the lycopene is somewhat important. The healthiest Adventists were eating the most tomatoes. Ovarian cancer may be one reason why tomatoes are very helpful. Cut the risk of 70% among women who had the most tomatoes in their diet. We all love leafy green vegetables, probably one of the most healthy foods on earth. And of course, the vegans ate the most greens. Overall mortality by simply eating a green salad. If you ate a green salad at least every day, that's the group over there on the far right, they ate a green salad at least 7 times or more per week, your overall mortality was decreased by 33%. And that's just eating a green salad every day. Colon cancer is reduced about 26% there if you were eating a lot of green vegetables. Well, what about salad dressings? Now, if you're eating a salad, can you put a whole bunch of salad dressing on it and still call it healthy? Well, the healthiest Adventists were using less salad dressings because those salad dressings are often very high in fat and they can double or triple the calories in a salad. Let's look at the cruciferous vegetables. We talked about these previously. The healthiest Adventists were eating the most cruciferous vegetables. That's almost 45 grams per day. Avocados. These are very healthy for you. The vegans were eating the most avocados. Sweet potatoes. We've previously talked about how these are healthy. And these are popular foods among a variety of food groups. What about white potatoes? Turns out many different eating patterns enjoy white potatoes. I would venture to guess that those in the plant-based group were eating theirs in the healthiest manner because turning them into potato chips kind of destroys all the nutritional value there. What about fried potatoes? Well, that's when they become very unhealthy. These are very popular with the least healthy people. What about tree nuts? We've talked previously in this program how although we want you to cut down on the amount of fat in your diet, you get the most bang for your buck by avoiding fat when it comes to weight loss. It's very important, even if you want to cut down the fat in your diet, that you eat a small handful of nuts every day, maybe 5 almonds or something like that. Even if you are obese, eating that small portion of nuts every day will decrease your risk of dying from a heart attack. And that's extremely important. So even though we do want you to cut down on the fat in your diet, you still need to eat some nuts every day, just a small serving, to decrease your risk of several diseases, especially heart attacks. And that was a new finding from the Adventist Health Study. The vegans were the ones who were eating the most of those, and it helps with the risk of prostate cancer. About a 45% reduction in your risk of prostate cancer if you ate nuts. And here's what I mentioned about heart attacks. We've previously looked at this. If you are eating nuts 5 or more days per week, about 50% reduction in your risk of having a heart attack. And we looked previously about how this is independent of your weight. So even if you're obese, you still need the nuts. If you're skinny, you still need these nuts to reduce your risk of a heart attack. What about soybeans and tofu? Now, tofu is a food that many of us are familiar with. It's made from soybeans. It's high in protein and low in fat. It's a very versatile food. Of course, the vegans were the ones who were popularizing tofu, and they were eating a lot of it. And so let me just kind of put all of this together. This has been a very rapid tour looking at a lot of the findings from studying Seventh-day Adventists in a variety of settings, looking at the various dietary components. And although it's easy to think that, and brag about the idea that Seventh-day Adventists are the healthiest people in the world in every single country that they've ever been studied in, which is true, what's more true is that within this study, there's a wide variety of dietary patterns, some of which are much healthier than others. And this kind of goes along with the idea I would like each one of you to give a report this next Saturday to encourage some of my church members to move toward the healthier end of this eating spectrum that we've been discussing here. This study gives a very nice summary of many of the things that we have been advocating here at the Best Way program. First, eat less of red meats, dairy products, and eggs. These foods are not healthy for you. They cause cancer of a variety of types. They cause high cholesterol. They cause heart attacks, hypertension, stroke, diabetes. These are not healthy foods, and we know that. We do need to eat more of whole grains, vegetables, especially those green leafy vegetables, fruits, and nuts, prepared in a variety of ways. We previously discussed how you want some of them cooked, you want some of them fresh. It's not right or wrong, just eat more vegetables. Eat some of them fresh, some of them cooked. You'll get different vitamins and minerals from both of those different preparations. Eat more fruits. Some of them could be cooked, many of them fresh though. Frozen is okay. Lots of different ways to eat fruits. And even if you are still struggling with obesity and you're not where you want to be, make sure you have a small serving of nuts at least 5 days per week to reduce your risk of a heart attack and several of those cancers that we looked at. Drink less coffee, tea, alcohol, and milk. These things are not healthy. Caffeine increases your overall mortality. Alcohol is not safe at any dose level. Even 1 drink per day is not healthy. Caffeinated teas are in the same group as coffee, and dairy milk is a great thing if you're a baby cow, but for those of us who are not baby cows, we would recommend not drinking dairy milk. If you need some milk for your cereal, get a non-dairy milk. There's tons of different types you can get at pretty much any grocery store now. But mainly drink more water. Water is what our bodies are made out of. About 60-70% of our bodies are water. We all need to be drinking more water, likely. Keep a water bottle with you. Staying hydrated is very, very helpful. Keep up your daily exercise. Continue to pray. Dr. Adams tells a funny story about a lady who came to his office after losing 40 pounds at the Best Way program and was very upset with him because if she didn't pray 3 times a day, she would overeat at her meals. And he explained to her, well, that just because the program's over doesn't mean you can stop praying. God still wants to have that spiritual connection with you to give you power in the area of diet. And so continue to pray, continue to connect with God, search the scriptures for strength. Keep score of your progress and continue to keep in touch with your helper. Hopefully that accountability has been something that's been very helpful to you in your weight loss journey and your journey toward better health. I'd finally like to encourage you to share your success with others. Not only this coming Saturday, those of you who are willing to give a report will be thrilled, but each one of you share your success with other people and be sure to give God the credit. It is God that has been helping you through this program on your health journey, and other people may not know that God wants to help them be healthy. So share about that. Congratulations on your success. Each one of your helpers, we just wish you God's blessing. We wish you good health. We're just excited to be walking this path with you. Each one of us are walking a journey toward better health, myself included. And I'm just so excited that we've been able to have this time together. And I just want to encourage each one of you to continue to become healthier every single day. So with that, I'm going to bring to an end our last health lecture here at Best Way Session 10. And I got a message from Dr. Adams that his computer had fallen off, but there he is. I see him. He is unmuted, and I'm going to add a spotlight here for Dr. Adams. Now, Dr. Adams, we just really appreciate you putting this program together, and I know you spent countless hours revising these slides. This is an all-new program this year. This is the first time we've used these PowerPoint slides, and Dr. Adams has spent a lot of time, not only in the last few months, but over the last 45, 50 years developing this program, and we just really appreciate it. We did get some questions, especially questions after this last lecture that was given about supplements. And I know that can be a hot topic, and there can be a lot of misunderstandings about supplements. And so there were 3 specific supplements that questions came in regarding. Several people asked about vitamin D, especially as pertains to individuals who might live, in Michigan or in Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's start with vitamin D. Talk about that.
Let's take them one at a time. Yeah, vitamin D is a sunshine vitamin, and obviously people that live closer to the equator get more sunshine. And in northern climes in the wintertime, vitamin D levels in people do tend to fall. And I think that we know that taking supplements can correct that, but it doesn't actually reduce your risk of the diseases that come from low vitamin D levels. So I would encourage people in the wintertime in northern climes to try to get some exposure. One way to do it is with ultraviolet lights, because that is what stimulates the vitamin D production. But if you can take a vacation to a sunny clime, if you can get in the sunshine in a secluded spot, then, continue to get sunshine throughout the winter.
So would you be willing to write a prescription for vacation to Florida to all those poor folks in winter? You'd be willing to write that prescription? Okay.
I won't pay for it, but I'll be glad to write the prescription.
Write the prescription. Second question came in, especially for those who are trying to eat a strictly plant-based diet. A question came in about supplementing with vitamin B12. Could you comment?
Yeah, vitamin B12 is an animal product. And if you were to drink 1 glass of skim milk a week, that would give you all the vitamin B12 that you need. Vitamin B12 we need in microgram quantities, not milligram quantities. So we need just an extremely small amount. And if you go to India, where by and large the population is vegetarian because they're Hindu, and Hindus will not eat meat in any shape, way, or form, a vitamin B deficiency there is actually extremely rare. And so I think that if you want to go on a strictly plant-based diet, that's perfectly all right to do. But when you get your annual checkup with your physician, just say, oh, hey, check my vitamin B12 level. And if it's low, you will need a supplement and you can take a vitamin B tablet. But if it's not low and your blood picture looks normal, don't worry about it because most people on a plant-based diet will not develop a vitamin B12 deficiency.
Okay. The last question about supplements came in regarding some of the omega fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids. Do we need to supplement
Yeah.
omega-3 fatty acids?
And the answer is no. We do need polyunsaturated fatty acids, but whether they're omega 3, omega 6, omega 9 doesn't make a lot of difference. The omega 3s are particularly useful for individuals who have high triglycerides. So if you're a person with high triglycerides, adding omega 3 will be very, very useful. But except for that, just getting plant-based oils, that are omega 6 or omega 9, all of them have some omega 3 in them. And of course, you get omega 3s from walnuts and from soybeans. And so, I don't think omega 3 needs to be supplemented unless you're a person with really high triglycerides. Then your doctor will prescribe it and you should take it.
So another question came in. Could you refresh our memory about the idea of basal metabolic rate? Why is it that if I'm putting myself on a very strict diet and I'm cutting my calories, why am I not seeing better results in losing weight?
Yeah, when you put yourself on a very strict diet, your body senses that you're wasting away and it can calculate ahead. And it knows that in 2 years and 7 months, you'll fit into a shoebox because you will have lost all your weight. And so your body goes into a panic, save me mode, and it shuts things down. Your temperature falls, you move more slowly, you're more tired, you're kind of depressed. And so what happens is your metabolic rate slows down to match what you're eating. And the more severe the diet, the worse you feel. And we overcome this in best way by doing walking. And just walking for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, keeps your metabolic rate where it needs to be. And we don't recommend extreme diets because not only do you lose fat, but you lose muscle, you lose bone, and it's much better to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week rather than 5 pounds a week that you could on a very drastic near starvation diet.
Okay, well, thank you. Give us just a little teaser for your message this coming Saturday.
Well, I'm developing the concept of the title is Never Enough. And I think that for people who are struggling with their weight, the problem that they have is really kind of an addiction to flavor. And I think flavor is another shade of addiction. And people who are overweight can never get enough flavor. So we're going to explore that and look for the cure that is outlined in scripture for us.
Interesting. Well, certainly flavor's not bad, but you can be addicted to a variety of things. I hadn't thought about that until just now. Well, thank you, Dr. Adams. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to see if Pastor Chris is out there somewhere. Pastor Chris, can you spotlight yourself? And there he is. Welcome. Share with us a spiritual thought for this last Best Way program of 2022.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. It's so good to see you all. And just want to tell you about a time several years ago that my wife and we had built a house, and we needed a new washer and dryer at the time. So we ordered a washer and dryer set, and I was too cheap. I did not want to pay to have them set it up. So I didn't want to pay the extra money. So they delivered it to our front porch and left it there at our new house. So my wife was gone, and I set up the washer and the dryer. because we had not had the washer and dryer set up. The laundry had accumulated there. And so I threw a load in the washing machine. When I got finished, I threw it in the dryer. And that dryer just bounced all over the place. I mean, it was just shaking terribly. I thought, oh, no, what have I done? Stopped the dryer. I looked all over. And, unlike most probably guys, and maybe some of you ladies are the same, but I did not read the instructions. I thought, how complex can it be to just hook up a washer and a dryer? But I overlooked looking at the back of the dryer. It had these big arrows that they had stickers on there that went to 3 bolts in the back of the dryer. And it says, remove these bolts before running the dryer. It could cause irreparable damage. My heart sunk. Oh no, what have I done? So I took the bolts out. I carefully put it back. I pressed play on the to start the thing, and lo and behold, it worked fine after that. But in order for my dryer to work best, it had to have some things removed from it. There's a Bible story I'm going to tell you about where that very thing happened. It wasn't bolts, but there was something that had to be removed from the situation. Jesus has been gone. This is in Matthew chapter 17. Jesus had been gone, and his disciples, Jesus had taught them health principles, and he had showed them how to help people with their health. Well, there was this man who had a boy who had seizures, and he brought his son to the disciples so that they could help him, and they could not help him. Well, Jesus comes on the scene, and the father comes over to Jesus and he says, please, is there any way you can help my son? He has seizures and he falls into the fire often, and I really need help. And so Jesus said, oh, faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? And how long shall I suffer you? Bring the child to me. So the disciples were lacking in something in their ability to help this poor child. Faith was a part of it. Jesus said it right there. They didn't quite have the faith that in Jesus' power that they should have. So Jesus, the Bible tells us something interesting about this situation. Sometimes we face troubles and we think it's either some genetic thing that we had, or it's some lifestyle issue that we've had. But the Bible actually paints, those are issues that we face, but there is an enemy that we all have that the Bible clearly defines as the devil and Satan. And he attacks each one of us. He affects us all differently. And sometimes he causes us tremendous challenges. Well, that was the case with this boy. He had seizures that were demonically caused. And so Jesus, the Bible tells us that Jesus rebuked the devil and cast him out, and the child was cured from that very hour. So later the disciples came to Jesus and they said, why were we not able to cure the child? What was wrong? And Jesus said in verse 20, because of your unbelief. For truly I tell you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you just say to this mountain, remove to the yonder place, and it shall move. Nothing shall be impossible to you. There is an element of what we're doing here that includes faith. In the healing and the help that we want from God, it includes faith. Trust in him to help us. And we have encouraged that from day one. We said, give it a try. Give God a try and see. Follow the scriptures that we have for you. Seek God in prayer. Pray before your meals. Pray 3 times a day and ask him to help you. You need power. You need help. And Jesus can help you. We've showed you scientific evidence that this is the way that God created you. And so as you trust in him and you live in harmony with the way you're created, your body will naturally lose the weight that you're wanting. But sometimes there's an additional element here, and Jesus brings this to play. He said in verse 21, he says, howbeit this kind, the trouble that this boy was having, howbeit this kind goes not out, but by prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. So there's 3 elements that Jesus highlights here. We need to have faith in God's ability to help us and follow his plan for us, his purposes for us. We need to pray. We need to seek him, come before him and say, Father, help me. I know you love us as your children. Please help me with this. And the third part he mentions is fasting. There is a time when it's appropriate for us to remove something from our intake. Jesus actually advocated fasting. Now, you can pray without seeking your doctor's advice, but I would encourage you to seek your doctor's advice before you fast. Get their guidance on this. But fasting is beneficial and helpful. We see this done throughout the scriptures. The Bible tells us in Daniel chapter 9 that Daniel fasted because he was seeking God's answer. Daniel chapter 10, we see Daniel fasting again with not a total fast where he wasn't eating food. He was just eating simple food, and he was only drinking water. He wasn't drinking juice, or he wasn't eating any processed food. It was just simple. So there's different ways to fast. There's intermittent fast. So the scriptures tells us that it's good for us at times to fast, and it's beneficial. Well, it's interesting. Science also says the same things today. And by removing from our bodies, by pausing the intake of food for a little bit, it helps our bodies to run more smoothly and quietly. So here's some benefits of fasting. It helps your blood levels of insulin to drop and helps with fat burning. Waste is moved from cells, and cellular repair is able to happen. And unless you start eating a larger volume of food later, it will result in eating less food will mean you'll have fewer calories that you've consumed. It will boost your metabolic rate by burning more calories. And for those of us that need all the help we can with our brain, this to me is fascinating. It actually shows an increase in BDNF. I know you're excited about that. Most of you don't know what BDNF is, but it's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's like miracle growth for the brain. It helps your dendrites sprout and helps give you more pathways to think. So it can help you think more clearly. There was a study in mice and rats. And now I know none of you are a mouse or a rat, but it does help us see what is beneficial to the body. And it demonstrated that intermittent fasting can help increase the lifespan. So doing this periodically can be beneficial. So just this last week, was it last week? My brain is a little tired right now, but we had a day of prayer and fasting at our church. And so we take some time together and pray and study the Bible. And it's just such a blessing as our mind becomes more clear, and we just take a little break from the food. And then we had a breakfast together at 5:30 in the evening. It was just such a wonderful time. So having a little fast is something you can do with others, and just spend some social time together can be such a blessing. Now, I'm just so proud of all of you. You have worked so hard throughout this course. You have implemented new things into your lifestyle, and you have made a lot of changes. You made new habits. You've set out in a new direction. I just want to encourage you to just keep pressing on day by day with these new things. You feel so much better. Your mind is more clear, and things are just going so much better. So I'm really, really proud of you. And I want to have prayer for you that God will continue to strengthen you and bless you and give you power and help in your life. Father in heaven, I just thank you for my friends. It's really been good to get to know them a little bit, and I'm just so proud of them, and I know you are too. I pray that you'll continue to give them the help and the strength they need each day to implement these principles in their life. And maybe there's some ones they haven't fully done that they want to incorporate more in their life, and I pray that you just give them the help and the power and the strength to do so. Bless them in their health and in their strength and in their walk with you. May it grow sweeter and sweeter each and every day, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, God bless you all. Can't wait to see you, those of you that are coming this coming Sabbath.
Great. Well, thanks, Pastor Chris. Just really appreciate all of your thoughts and your prayers and the spiritual insights about mice and rats. At this time, I just really appreciate the way that all those scientific studies kind of come spiritually alive, and Pastor Chris has a way of tying together the Bible stories with scientific data, and it's just fascinating. I just really appreciate that. At this time, Rachel, Recipes with Rachel. At the end, Rachel, I'll tell you the question I'm going to ask you, and that is to give a 30-second advertisement for an upcoming cooking school.
Okay. So welcome everybody tonight. I am going to give you or share with you a recipe that's going to seem absolutely ridiculous to you. It seemed absolutely ridiculous to me the first time I tried it, and everybody I mention it to looks at me like I'm crazy, but it's super easy and it's amazingly tasty. And I love sharing it with people and seeing the looks on their faces. I wish I could see the looks on all of your faces now, but I only have a few of you. So this is a recipe that only has 2 slides because I'm only going to show you the ingredients and then I'm going to show you what it looks like made. So let's see if I can make it work here. Let's see. 3 ingredients: a sweet potato, black beans, and an avocado. And all you do is you bake your sweet potato and probably about 375 for about 30 minutes or so until it's tender. This was a big one, so it took a little bit longer. And then you drain your beans, and you can add any kind of spices that you like to it. Or you can bake your beans from scratch, however, or make your beans from scratch, whichever way you want. Cans are often easier, and you can see these had no salt added even. And all you need to do is add maybe some different spices that you like, or nothing at all. It doesn't even matter. I leave mine completely plain, and I like it that way. And then you can cut up your avocado into pieces, or you can smash it and make guacamole, and you put all of that, the beans and the avocado, on top of your sweet potato. And I tell you, it's like one of the most fantastic meals ever. My children love it. They ask me for it all the time. If you are not a huge fan of sweet potatoes, you can use a regular baked potato, but we all have learned how good sweet potatoes are for us. And I just really love the flavors as they combine. You wouldn't expect the flavors of this to go together well, but they really do. And it's just very simple. So thank you for letting me share with you all of the crazy little recipes I've found over the years, and some of the things my family enjoys. And I hope you can try this out and enjoy it as much as we do. And you asked me about the cooking school. Unfortunately, we are not going to be having our cooking school coming up as we had planned, because we want to have everyone with us in the church. And I'm not really comfortable doing it on Zoom at this current time. So we're going to hold off on that, unfortunately. But sorry, Eric, that's not really a very good advertisement.
I was just wondering if you had already looked at some future dates for that. Have we thought about that at all, or we're still working on it?
I'm still holding off. I'm thinking it's probably going to be in the fall. So, and that way we have plenty of time to get into our building and be able to actually see people and share food together, so we can taste and see.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to perhaps some small cooking demos during the diabetes program, perhaps, because I think the diabetes program this summer will be in the new facility. And this coming Thursday, I just found out they're going to be putting the countertops in the kitchen. So we're making progress. And the day after that, they'll be putting in some of the sinks and things of that nature. And so we are making progress. But I want to say just personal testimony about that picture you have on the screen, Rachel. I thought that it was crazy. I thought it was a completely crazy idea for a meal, but it's good. It's amazingly good. I mean, I don't know who thought this up the first time, but I would not have put those three things together. But if you think about it, you have a carbohydrate, you have a protein, and you have a fat. It's a very, very nice, complete meal, all of them very healthy, different colors, and it was amazingly good. So I encourage each one of you, if you have not already had a chance to try some of these interesting ideas. This is one of Rachel's more interesting ones. Most of the others we kind of recognize, but this one's a little more interesting. But it's very good, and it's very easy. It's inexpensive. What's not to love? So thank you, Rachel, so much for all of your time. I just really appreciate you putting together all of the Rachel's recipes, and I just really appreciate your time with that.
Thank you.
So at this time, I think we are ready to break up into our small group sessions for a final discussion. For those of you who asked me before the program, the handout for session 10 should be available on the website, southbaysda.org. By now, you know where to click on the Best Way program, and you know how to access that. So group leaders, you can access it there. Maybe you've already obtained the copy from me via email. So I dismiss you to your programs now. Again, hope to see you at 4605 Redlands Drive this coming Saturday at 11. Maybe come at 10:45 if you want to find a parking spot. Might be a little bit crowded, but we just really look forward to seeing you there and hearing some good reports. God bless each one of you. Michael.